Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Once, a very well-known Dhamma preacher, an elderly monk who had been preaching for many years and guiding spiritual seekers, he was confronted with the question, what are the true signs of a spiritual seeker, particularly a sincere and very serious seeker of truth, a Dhamma follower who is truly dedicated? So, since he has been sharing his knowledge of Dhamma and his whatever he knew, the way he practiced and all that, so he thought, why not find the answer of this question from the hearers of the Dhamma. So he asked his listeners, he said, well, dear spiritual seekers, the followers of Dhamma, do share with me your thoughts. My question is very simple. What are the signs of a true, serious and sincere seeker of truth, seeker of Dhamma? A Dhamma practitioner, one who calls himself a follower of the Buddha, or at least one who appreciates the teaching of the Buddha. So different people say different things. Some said, well, one sign is that you become afraid of doing anything bad. The other one said, no, that is not enough to be afraid. We should really do something more positive. That is, one should love what is good, so that when you delight in good, it will be natural for you to abhor that which is evil. Abhor means you have a distaste for something that is bad, something that is evil. So a third person said, no, everything, you see, is preceded by mind. Everything follows from mind. Therefore, I think the best way I can put the true sign, the sign of a spiritual seeker, is that the spiritual seeker tries to be mentally free all the time. And this can happen only when one has control over the mind. And so on, these various seekers of truth, they mention their own experience. That is the characteristic lakshanam of a true spiritual seeker. So now the teacher, who was quite wise and experienced, he has been looking inward within himself. He said, I am hearing this. How far is it true? Have I put them into my own life and tasted them? As a seeker of truth, I have not only to believe in truth, but taste the ambrosia of truth. Taste truth, and thereby reality of everything. So he went inwards. He was deeply meditating on these three explanations, and he said, I will answer you next time. So when they met again next time, he said, the true sign, as far as I understand the Dhamma of the Buddha, the true sign of a spiritual seeker, I mean a sincere and serious spiritual seeker, is that, number one, he or she has an abhorrence for anything that is evil. That is, has a distaste, therefore doesn't in any way get involved with whatever is negative, whatever is bad or evil. Whether it is committed, say it is practiced or indulged in, either by thinking or by speaking or by action. Only three ways the evil can manifest only in three ways. There can be no other fourth or second way. No. Just three ways. Because evil basically is an intention. Basically is a volition. Is a will to do something that is destructive, something that is unwholesome, something that hurts others and oneself. Something rooted in terms of Abhidhamma, something rooted in greed, hatred and delusion. That is the definition of evil. This being the case, having this in mind, to abhor evil would amount to have a distaste for anything which is rooted in greed, rooted in hatred, rooted in delusion or ignorance. And how to find out that these are rooted in lobha, dosa, moha, greed, hatred and delusion? The yardstick should be truth, reality, not opinion of anybody. So, first, the spiritual seeker, a serious one, he should be, he can be judged as a serious seeker only when he has this tendency. He has a distaste for evil, distaste for anything which is unwholesome, which hurts others, harms others, and harms oneself too. That is one, distaste and all that. But I think the spiritual seeker goes a step further. It is not enough that you have abhorrence for evil. Abhorrence in Pali is arati. That means you don't delight in anything that is negative and bad. But you develop or cultivate a distaste for anything that is wrong. Now this is possible only when you abstain, not only just mentally or intellectually or otherwise you have a distaste or you don't like that which is bad, but you must also show this in conduct in the form of abstinence from anything that is wrong and bad. So arati always invariably goes with virati. Virati means refraining from. If you really think a thing is bad or evil, something that is rooted in greed, hatred and delusion, whether it's your own or somebody else's, it matters not. So if you have a distaste for it or you abhor it, certainly it will manifest in the form of abstinence. You give up. Voluntarily. Nobody tells you to give up. That is why in the Panchashila, which is the basic minimum 5 moral conducts which a Buddhist must follow, must, not just have a choice for follow, no. If he or she is serious, spiritual seeker, there is no other way. So these 5 precepts, if we examine on the basis of this definition, you will see that if you give up, if you have a distaste for killing, or if you have a distaste for any kind of violence, there is no other go but to cultivate, first of all, to abstain from any act of violence, whether in action or in speech, or even thinking. You abstain from it under all circumstances, on the one hand, and on the other hand, delight in doing what is the opposite of killing, namely preserving and you see, promoting the well-being of all life, practicing metta, practicing compassion, karuna, practicing mudita, to delight in the happiness of the others. Just the opposite of jealousy, opposite of envy. No. If anybody is happy, is successful, and in any way gaining, you delight in it. You are happy about it. You are happy with others' happiness, as opposed to being jealous and envy. You say, oh, what they call hotte kuchi in camera. Instead of that, be happy at others' happiness. Now these are the attitudes that go together with the practice of Panchashila. So on one hand, you abstain because you have a distaste for acts of violence, and on one hand, and on the other hand, you consciously and deliberately practice metta so that you may promote the well-being of yourself and all those who are around you, your family members, and promote the well-being of all beings for that matter, not only human beings, but non-human beings as well. Now this large-hearted approach to spiritual life is exactly what the Buddha expects from every serious and sincere seeker of truth. But this can happen only when you have an understanding of the nature of mind, which is behind everything. You see, to abhor evil and to abstain from evil is possible not only by delighting in good and being happy with goodness and upholding goodness, but that which is behind both these, namely abhorring evil or delighting in good, and that is mind. The importance of mind behind. So there, a follower, a serious follower, tries to understand the nature of his mind and how far the mind is truly influenced by Shila, by practice of the Panchashila or any number of other Shilas. The only way to know is how far the mind is free. How, for instance, your mind is free in the sense that a person who is addicted to any addictions, whether it's drinking or smoking or taking to drugs, any addictive habits, is the very opposite of mental freedom. A person who is addicted to drinking, etc., he is a slave of his mind. He is not a master of his mind. And unless you are a master of your own mind, meaning that you know your mind, you know your motivations, what motivates you to act in a certain manner, whether it is violent or non-violent, whether it is egoistic or non-egoic. You are the best judge, nobody else. And to be able to judge yourself, the only thing to do is to know your mind. So, and to know the mind fully, the mind must be free. If a person is given to addiction, whether it is drinking or tea or cigarette or whatever, or drug, or even, for instance, addiction to things like going to the cinema, or all kinds of going to the, you see now all sorts of modern ways of putting the mind in a state of slavery. If you are really watchful of your mind, you can't be an addict in any manner, anything that can condition the mind and that deprives you from enjoying the freedom of mind. And the enjoyment of freedom of mind means what? Just having control over the mind, and therefore the happiness that is derived from control over the mind. Happiness and mental control are inseparable. To enjoy a free mind means to enjoy true happiness, an unconditioned happiness. Happiness does not depend upon any addiction. Happiness doesn't depend upon any habit. Happiness doesn't depend upon any mode of behavior. None of this. But plain freedom of mind, that is the source of happiness. So now if you examine the Panchashila seriously, as a serious seeker of truth, of freedom of mind, in the ultimate sense is Nibbana. It is only when we gain Nibbana that we are truly free. It is only then that we enjoy true happiness. So Nibbana must not be a mere goal, an intellectual pursuit leading to something about which we know nothing. No. It must be experienced here and now. To the extent you are able to abhor or rather have a distaste for evil, you are having a taste for Nibbana. Because to be free, to distaste, having a distaste for evil or abstaining from evil automatically enables you to delight in good. And to delight in good automatically leads you to enjoy freedom of mind. When you delight in non-addiction, your mind is free. You are no more a slave. You are free from slavery. That's why once when Lord Buddha was asked about what is happiness, he said, don't be a slave of your mind. That is happiness. Be a master of your mind. Enjoy happiness by being master. How to be a master of mind? The only way is know the mind. And know the mind in order to be free, to enjoy inner freedom, mental freedom is possible only when you are mindful, diligent in your spiritual practices. When you are heedful about anything that leads to mental freedom. To be able to enable oneself to practice the Panchashila fully and well, one has to have a measure of diligence or heedfulness. Appamado, it is called in Pali. So now if you take all these factors into consideration, you will find true blessing in life comes only through this. That is why in the 7th verse of the Maha Mangala Sutta, the Bhagavan has defined what is blessing in life. A certain Deva goes to the Buddha in the dead of night, suddenly illuminating the entire Jeta's grove and Anathapindika's monastery where the Lord was staying. There, near his kuti, his little cottage, open ground where the Buddha gave discourses. There this Deva appears in the dead of night. And he asks, he asks the Lord, Bahu Deva Manusasa, many human beings and divine beings, Mangalani Achintayam, they have been discussing and talking and debating and all that sort of thing, thinking as to what constitutes true blessing in life. Mangalani Achintayam, Akankhamana Sottanam, because they seek true happiness, true well-being, Swasti, which means Swasti, happiness and well-being. seeking that, they are constantly talking, thinking, deliberating among themselves as to what is real blessing in life. And there the Buddha, in a step-by-step manner, defined what constitutes blessing. Starting with the first blessing is to be able to know what is good company or bad company, whom to avoid, whose company to avoid, and whose company to cultivate. So and so on. Then in the seventh step when he comes, he says, Arati virati papa madhyapana cha sanyamo appamado cha dhammesu etang mangalam uttamang. Here is a translation. Abhorring and refraining from evils. Arati virati papa. Papa is evil. Anything that is rooted in greed, hatred and delusion. This is the very best objective definition that you can give. Evil is not what people think to be evil or what is said in the book to be evil or what as the custom and tradition say is evil. But evil is, it can be seen, it can be easily found out by its motivations. When the mind is motivated by anger, hatred, or when it is motivated by superstitious belief, by egotism, by greed, that is where that kind of wrongly motivated mind constitutes evil, the source of evil. Because that kind of mind will manifest in any way. It will manifest in conduct, in action, whether physical, bodily action or mental action, or verbal action. So, he says, Arati virati papa. Develop a distaste and abhor evil, and because you have a distaste and evil, you refrain from any kind of evil, whether it is in action or in speech or in thought. And then do the opposite. Delight in all that is good. Delight in all that is wholesome. All that leads to freedom, mental freedom. That means freedom of mind in the sense, mind being free from greed, mind being free from hatred, mind being free from anger, mind being free from prejudice, mind being free from egotism, free from all kinds of complexes. That is freedom of mind. Now, when one does that, Arati virati papa, abhorring and refraining from evils, abstaining from anything that creates addiction, intoxicating drinks, or any addiction. Why? Addiction means mental slavery. You become dependent, mentally dependent on something. So on one hand you abhor and all that sort of thing and delight in that is good and abstain definitely from that which creates addiction of any kind. And then all these will be possible only when you are appamado cha dhammesu. When you are always heedful and diligent in your spiritual practices. You practice meditation, my dear, once in a way and say, oh yes, I am a practitioner of meditation. But you do it mechanically, without judging whether your meditation is leading to freedom of mind, whether your meditation is improving the quality of life by way of practice of virtue, Shila, practice of at least the Panchashila. Meditation must bring about all that. But have you seriously judged yourself instead of judging others all the time? Judge yourself whether your meditation has really improved the quality of life by practicing virtue, sila, moral conduct. Now once you do that, it's only through a mindful living that all these three, arati virati papa, majjapanata sanyamo, appamadocha dhammes, namely abhorring and refraining from evils, abstaining from intoxicating drinks and so on, and being heedful, being diligent all the time in all spiritual practices. Etang mangalamuttamang, the Buddha said. Each of these, all the three, each one is a great blessing by itself. People flock in holy places, they go for pilgrimages and do all kinds of things. Why? They don't know. Superstitious believe if you go there, my life will improve, I will be great blessings, and I will be more successful in my job or business, and all kinds of things like that. They are all worldly motivations. That's not the true way of doing that. It is good you go to pilgrimages, go to holy places, do all that, but with the right motivation. To be more diligent in spiritual life. To be able to practice sila more mindfully and to live happily through mindfulness. With this I conclude. May the blessings of Bhagavan Buddha surround your lives with wisdom. May you enjoy true blessing in life by practicing sila, meditation, and cultivating penetrating wisdom, which means the penetrating insight into the realities of things. Search for realities. Don't go for just mere belief or what others say. No. Search for reality within your mind. And that is possible only when the mind is free. May you all be happy. Sukhino bhavantu.